Linda had been my assistant for 8 years. Her confession at the holiday party revealed how she had been manipulating my entire professional life from behind the scenes. The moment still plays in my head like a broken record. There I was, standing by the punch bowl in our decorated conference room, watching my colleagues laugh and chat about their weekend plans when Linda suddenly stood up from her chair near the back. The room went quiet as she cleared her throat, and I remember thinking she was about to make some sweet speech about teamwork or holiday wishes. Instead, she looked directly at me with tears in her eyes and said she had something important to confess. My stomach dropped. In that moment, I knew my world was about to change forever. Linda began speaking in a shaky voice, telling everyone how she had been secretly sabotaging my career for years. She detailed every single thing she had done, intercepting important calls from clients, conveniently forgetting to schedule crucial meetings with upper management, and even deleting emails that could have advanced my position. My face burned with embarrassment as 30 of my colleagues stared at me, processing what they were hearing. She explained that she had been in love with me for years and wanted to keep me dependent on her. Every failure I experienced, every missed opportunity that made me question my abilities, it was all her doing. She wanted me to need her, to rely on her completely. The room was dead silent except for the soft holiday music playing from someone's phone. I felt like I was going to be sick. 8 years of my professional life suddenly made sense in the worst possible way. All those times I wondered why I wasn't getting promoted despite my hard work, all those moments when I questioned my competence, it was because someone I trusted was working against me from the shadows. My hands were shaking as I set down my cup of punch. I wanted to run out of that room and never come back. The humiliation was overwhelming. How could I face these people again? How could I continue working here knowing that everyone now saw me as some pathetic victim who couldn't even manage her own assistant? But then something unexpected happened. Linda started crying harder, and through her tears, she began shaking her head frantically. She looked at me with desperation in her eyes and said that everything she had just told us was a lie. The real truth, she said, was the complete opposite. Update 1. I honestly didn't sleep for 3 days after the party. Linda's second confession hit me like a truck, and I couldn't stop thinking about every interaction we'd had over the past 8 years. She had actually been covering for me this entire time. Every mistake I made, every deadline I missed, every time I dropped the ball, Linda had been there behind the scenes, fixing things before anyone noticed. She had been working overtime, staying late, coming in early, all to make sure I looked competent to our supervisors. The promotion I got 3 years ago? Linda had spent weeks preparing all my materials and had even written most of my presentation. The big client contract that saved our department last year? She had been the one making follow-up calls when I forgot, sending reminder emails when I was overwhelmed, and basically managing the entire relationship while I took credit. I felt like my entire professional identity was crumbling. Who was I if Linda had been propping me up this whole time? Was I actually good at my job, or was I just some fraud who had been lucky enough to have an angel watching over me? The worst part was that Linda was retiring in 2 weeks. She said she couldn't keep carrying this secret anymore and wanted me to know the truth before she left. She also wanted me to know that she believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. I called in sick the next day because I couldn't face going to the office. I spent the entire day in my apartment going through every major accomplishment of my career and wondering which ones were actually mine. It was like looking at my life through a completely different lens. When I finally went back to work, people kept giving me these sympathetic looks. Some colleagues tried to be supportive, telling me that Linda's actions were inappropriate regardless of her intentions. But I could see the questions in their eyes. They were wondering the same thing I was: what would happen to me once Linda was gone? Linda tried to approach me several times that week, but I couldn't handle talking to her yet. I needed time to process everything. She left little notes on my desk apologizing and trying to explain herself, but I threw them away without reading them. The strangest thing was that I started noticing all the little things she did throughout the day. She would quietly correct my emails before I sent them, reorganize my calendar when I double-booked myself, and somehow always knew exactly which files I needed before I even asked. It was like she could read my mind. I began to realize that maybe Linda's help wasn't about me being incompetent. Maybe it was about having someone who genuinely cared about my success and wanted to see me thrive. But I was still angry about the deception and confused about what it all meant. Update 2. Linda's last day was approaching fast, and I knew I had to talk to her before she left. I couldn't let her retire with this tension between us, especially after everything she had apparently done for me over the years. I asked her to stay after work on Thursday, and we sat in the empty office as the cleaning crew worked around us. It was awkward at first, but I told her I needed to understand why she had helped me so much and why she had chosen to reveal it in such a dramatic way. Linda explained that she had started helping me early on because she saw potential in me that I didn't see in myself. She said I was creative and had great ideas, but I lacked confidence and organizational skills. Instead of letting me fail, she decided to support me quietly. Over the years, it had become second nature for her to anticipate my needs and cover my weaknesses. She never intended for it to go on so long, but she was afraid that if she stopped, I would struggle and possibly lose my job. She cared about me too much to let that happen. The confession at the party happened because she was panicking about leaving me. She had rehearsed a simple goodbye speech, but when she stood up and saw me looking so confident and successful, she realized I had no idea how much support I had been receiving. She was terrified about what would happen to me after she left. She said the first confession about sabotaging me was her anxiety talking. In that moment, she felt like she had been manipulating my life even though her intentions were good. Then she immediately realized how wrong and hurtful those words were, which is why she corrected herself. What really got to me was when she said that watching me grow and succeed had been the most rewarding part of her job. She never wanted recognition or credit, she just wanted to see me thrive. She compared it to being a parent who helps their child with homework but still feels proud when the child succeeds. I started crying right there in the office. All those years of self-doubt and imposter syndrome, and I had someone in my corner who believed in me more than I believed in myself. I felt grateful and guilty and confused all at the same time. Linda also told me something that completely changed my perspective. She said that lately she had been doing less and less for me because I had been handling things on my own. The person I had become over the past couple of years was much more confident and capable than the person she had started helping 8 years ago. She made me promise that I wouldn't let her revelation destroy my confidence. She said that all her help wouldn't have mattered if I didn't have the intelligence and creativity to build on it. She was just the foundation, I was the one who built the house. We ended up talking until almost midnight. She gave me a huge binder full of notes and systems she had developed to help manage my workload. She also wrote down contact information for all the vendors and clients she had been managing behind the scenes. But the most surprising thing happened as we were packing up to leave. Linda handed me a letter and told me not to open it until after she had officially retired. She said it contained something that would help me understand the full picture of our working relationship. I drove home that night feeling emotionally drained but also strangely hopeful. Maybe I was stronger than I thought. Maybe Linda's help had been more like training wheels that I was ready to remove. Final update. It's been 3 months since Linda retired, and I finally feel ready to share how everything turned out. I'm also ready to tell you what was in that letter she gave me. The first few weeks after Linda left were rough. I made some mistakes and had to stay late several nights to catch up on things I had never handled myself. But something interesting happened. I figured it out. I adapted. I learned. And I realized that Linda had been right about my capabilities. I started implementing the systems she had taught me, and I began to understand why she had been able to anticipate my needs so well. She had been observing my work patterns for years and had developed processes that complemented my natural strengths while supporting my weak areas. The big test came when I had to handle a major project completely on my own. It was the kind of high-stakes situation that would have terrified me before. But I found myself channeling all the techniques Linda had shown me, and I actually excelled. My supervisor was impressed, and I felt genuinely proud of my work for the first time in years. That's when I finally opened Linda's letter. Inside, I found copies of performance reviews and emails from supervisors spanning my entire 8 years at the company. But these weren't documents I had ever seen before. They were internal communications between Linda and upper management. The letters revealed that Linda had been regularly updating our bosses about my projects and contributions. But here's the twist, she had been advocating for me and highlighting my strengths, not covering up my weaknesses. She had been my biggest champion in rooms I was never in. One email from 5 years ago showed Linda pushing back when a supervisor wanted to move me to a different department. She argued that I was a valuable asset who just needed the right kind of support to reach my potential. Another email showed her declining a promotion to a different floor because she wanted to continue working with me. The most shocking document was a recommendation letter Linda had written about me to the company president 2 years ago. In it, she described me as one of the most innovative and dedicated employees she had ever worked with. She credited me with ideas and solutions that I thought had been collaborative efforts. Reading these documents, I realized that Linda hadn't been propping me up to make me look good. She had been removing obstacles so my actual abilities could shine through. There's a huge difference between creating fake success and clearing the path for real success to happen. I also found a handwritten note from Linda at the bottom of the pile. She wrote that she had never told me about these advocacy efforts because she didn't want me to feel like I owed her anything. She wanted my confidence to come from within, not from knowing someone was fighting for me behind the scenes. The note ended with her saying that she had seen me transform from someone who doubted every decision into someone who trusted her own judgment. She said the transformation had been my own doing, and she was proud to have witnessed it. I called Linda that evening to thank her, and we ended up talking for hours. She told me that she had been following my recent successes through mutual colleagues and that she wasn't surprised by how well I was doing. She said she had always known I had it in me. We now meet for coffee once a month, and our relationship has evolved into something more like a friendship between equals. She still gives me advice when I ask for it, but I no longer feel dependent on her guidance. Looking back, I think Linda's confession at the holiday party was actually a gift, even though it felt devastating at the time. It forced me to examine my own capabilities and to separate my actual skills from my insecurities. It also taught me the difference between being helped and being enabled. I've been promoted twice since Linda left, and I know these achievements are genuinely mine. But I also know that having someone believe in me during those early years gave me the foundation I needed to eventually believe in myself. Sometimes the people who help us the most are the ones working quietly in the background, not seeking credit or recognition. Linda taught me that true support isn't about making someone dependent, it's about giving them the tools and confidence they need to succeed independently. The holiday party confession that seemed like it would ruin my career actually ended up being the beginning of my real professional growth. And Linda, who I thought had been manipulating my life, turned out to be the person who helped me find my own strength. I still think about that night sometimes, standing by the punch bowl, watching my world turn upside down. But now I'm grateful it happened. Sometimes we need our foundation shaken before we can build something stronger on top of it.